Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Paper Wishes Weekly Webisodes. I'm Sarah Newman, and I'm really looking forward to showing you this gorgeous set from our friends at Stamperia called the Sweet Winter Collection. Now we can start with the Sweet Winter 8x8 paper pack, which has 10 sheets of double-sided pattern background papers with this soft, beautiful collage look. So let's just take a quick look at these gorgeous designs. As you can see, lots of sheet music in here, lots of script in this collage. Beautiful florals, some winter roses, nice basic backgrounds here, as well as some snowflakes, some border images. Really beautiful. And I love this color palette. I think it's just something a little bit different for Christmas and winter themed cards. So here we are coming to the end of the collection, and as you'll notice, even the very last page in this set is a beautiful design. So those are the 8x8 pattern papers. Now to go along with this, we've also got a pack of 27 chipboard die cuts. You can see some of them here. Now these are great as they coordinate with the background papers, giving you lots of options for card focals, and you can see lots of messages on here, as well as some floral motifs and some smaller accent pieces here. Now you've also got a sheet of rice paper, and this is the Sweet Winter Rounds rice paper, and you've got 6 large circular images plus lots of smaller floral pieces that you can use here too. Finally, there's a set of rub-on transfers, all of course designed to coordinate perfectly with our papers and die cuts, making it really easy to create some gorgeous sweet winter and Christmas cards. So I have a couple of projects to share with you today and some demos too. As you can see, we have a lot to explore, and I'm really glad you're here. Come play with us. Let's start with a fun card project that's a little bit different. Now this one is made using the Peekaboo card cutting die, which lets you create a design that opens like this. So from the front flap to the bottom flap, and the 2 side flaps will open to reveal a sentiment or image in the center. This is such a fun card design and one that's really easy to do too. So let's take a look. Now let me show you the die set that I'm working with. This is the Peekaboo card die set. As you can see, you've got a large base piece here and then another smaller die. Now you'll need to die cut 2 of these shapes because these are going to be your side flaps. Now it's really easy to put this together, but of course, hot off the press will always give you instructions, a diagram, and then a project idea in here as well. But let's take a look. I'll show you how to do it. I'm going to move this aside, and you can see here this base piece that I've die cut. Now, I like to work with a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock, either patterned or plain, to create the base. So here I'm using plain cardstock, and this is from the Teacups and Roses cardstock collection, which is also what I'm using in the other projects in today's webisode. And I just thought that these colors matched really perfectly with the Stamperia pattern papers. So I've got my base piece die cut. Now when you're die cutting this, you'll get the outside edge. You will also get these score lines in here, which mean that you can fold this up really easily. So there's your top and your bottom flap. Now for the inside, of course, you want to have those side flaps that are coming in there. And here's where you'll need to die cut 2 of these pieces. Now I've folded these up on the score line. You may want to use a bone folder to get a really nice crisp line on there. Then what I like to do is kind of do my positioning first before I glue anything down, because I want to make sure that my pieces are going to meet in the center here. And then what I'll do is use some double-sided tape, extra sticky tape if you've got it, to secure the flaps on the inside. And then just take a piece of pattern paper to secure that, and also to cover up those score lines and those fold lines in here. So super simple to do. And that's how you put this together. And then you can decorate however you want on the inside. So let's take another look here at the card project. Now you'll notice that I've got some pattern paper on the outside here. So you've got a couple of options for this. First of all, what you can do is take your die cut base piece, and you can take a piece of pattern paper and simply put some glue on here, position this down right up to the fold line, flip it over, and then use scissors to trim around the outside edge if you want to do it that way. You can also, however, take the die, let me find this here, and position this on here like so. Secure it down with a little bit of your low tack tape and run this through your die cutting machine. And this will give you just this front flap area. And then you can simply glue that down in place. And that's what I've done here on the front of my card. So I've got the front piece covered with this beautiful pattern paper. For the bottom flap, I've just lined this with that blue pattern paper. Didn't really need to do much more than trim around the outside edge with some scissors. And then I've also got some more pattern paper down here at the bottom and on either side. And then on the inside, I've got this really sweet die cut sentiment, and I've got this mounted up onto a scallop circle. This is a scallop die from hot off the press, and that just matches perfectly. So these will fold in like so and then up. And here again, I've got another scallop circle. Now I've also got some thin line dazzles in here, and these are just beautiful for adding a simple little touch at the top and the bottom to create some nice borders. And I've got some jute twine here just to add a touch of softness. Now I've inked the edges of the die cuts as well as the card itself with Thundercloud ink. And so just running that around the outside edges, and that gives a nice, pretty, soft and shaded effect. So this is our first project, quick and easy to do. And of course, those pattern papers just look so beautiful together. Now I've got another card that I want to show you, and this is another simple combination of papers and die cuts. So here I've covered the card front with this floral paper, and then I cut this scenery paper just slightly smaller than the card front. Now before I glued this down, I wanted to add a bit of an edge around here. So I also took that Thundercloud ink pad and inked around the outside edge before gluing it down. And then I've got a cluster collage here of some of those gorgeous floral die cuts. And I've added the Merry Christmas sentiment. Now this is from the Snowflake Dazzles collection, and I just thought that was so pretty and so perfectly fitting right into this scenery area here. Now I'm also using some of the rub-ons from today's collection. I've got a postmark rub-on going on here, and then a snowflake rub-on as well. And they're just kind of blending into the background, but adding another little bit of dimension. And I've accented with some of the snowflake dazzles from the same collection here. Now on the inside of my card, I've got another strip of that pattern paper, just lightly inked around the outside edges. I've got a die cut sentiment and some more of these little snowflakes on here. Now the rub-ons are really easy to apply, so let me show you how to do this quickly. I know if you've seen any of the other Stamperia webisodes, you probably already know this technique, but we don't want to leave anybody out. So I've simply snipped out this rub-on, from the backing sheet. You notice I've got that liner on there. I'm just going to pull this gently off and then place this onto my surface and position this down here. Now there's a bit of adhesive, if you will, on the back of the rub-on, which means that this will hold in place. It's not going to go sliding around. I'm going to grab a bone folder and gently but firmly burnish this image on here. You don't need to put a whole lot of muscle into it, which is nice. And then what I can do is just gently and slowly pull this back, and I can see that I've transferred some of the design, but oops, I need to go back and position this back down. Make sure I get all of the area on here. That's why you want to do it slowly and gently. And then pull that off, and I've got my rub-on right onto my backing piece. So you can do this onto plain cardstock. You can also do it onto pattern cardstock, and that will create a completely different look. Okay, now that we've seen 2 easy ways to use this collection, let's take a look at some more techniques. This card features some simple layering with pattern papers and die cuts from today's collection, plus a background layer of pattern paper that has been die cut using the fancy lattice background cutting die from hot off the press. Now, I love this die because it can add instant dimension to your cards, whether you use it with pattern paper or solid cardstock. So let me show you. So this is the die itself. And of course, all you need to do is pop it down onto your paper or cardstock and send it through your die cutting machine, and you'll have a piece that looks like this. Absolutely beautiful. Now you can use this, as I've done, just from solid cardstock. You can use this as is. You can pop it onto a lightly patterned background paper to give a really pretty and more defined look, or you can also put it onto a pattern paper and you will have another different, kind of more subtle design here. Super simple to do. Now, as far as gluing this down, I do recommend using the sticky specs, and this will make it much, much easier to get really fine micro dots of glue positioned all over, and that means that it's much easier and less messy to glue this in place. So what I've done here is die cut that lattice from pattern paper and then positioned it onto another pattern paper. Now, because I've got two pattern papers going on here, I did want to give some extra definition around the outside edge. So I've inked just around the outside edge of that lattice die cut piece with Thundercloud ink before gluing it down onto that pattern paper. Now, the front of my card is covered with pink cardstock from the Teacups collection, and I inked the outside edges here too. Then I have some of these beautiful floral die cuts, and these just create a gorgeous kind of frame here for my sentiment, which is another die cut. Now, this is popped up on foam tape, and then this Believe, which is another die cut, is also popped up on some foam tape, so I've got a little bit more dimension there too. Then for my card inside, I have a really simple strip of pattern paper and another die cut, plus a little bit of jute twine in here. Now here we have another card with this beautiful combination of pattern papers. I just had so much fun with these pattern papers. They're beautiful. Now I've also got a layered scalloped square focal piece on here too. The bird that you see here is a rub-on placed onto pattern paper, and then I've got a little tiny heart dazzle here as an accent. I'm using a script dazzle down at the bottom. Now this is not specifically Christmas, nor is it necessarily winter themed. So I think you can use this design and these pattern papers for lots of different occasions. Then for the inside here, I've got yet again another strip of pattern paper. Got another rub-on here at the top, kind of overlapping that strip, and another one down here at the bottom, and then another dazzle. Okay, our last card is going to feature the rice paper, so I'm going to grab a few supplies and then we can take a look at this technique. So I have to tell you, by the time I made this card, I had pretty much run out of full sheets of the 8x8 pattern papers. So I had to do a little bit of patchwork on my card front. And you can see here these two different designs. This blue paper, which I have on most of my card front, including this border piece, which is printed onto the paper. That's covering most of it. And then I've got this little snippet here of coordinating pattern paper. And that's just kind of filling in this empty area here. Now I've covered up the seams between those two papers using those thin line dazzles. So not only are these gorgeous for borders, but you can also use them to hide your patchwork lines if you need to. Now I've also got a larger square of pattern paper, and that's creating a place for my rice paper focal, which is this beautiful white horse. So this is from the rice paper rounds sheet, and we can take a look at how to glue this onto some cardstock so that you can get it ready to die cut. So I'm going to move aside my card and just bring in a piece of plain white smooth cardstock. And I've got one of the rounds just cut out from the backing sheet. You don't need to be too careful about going around the outside edges perfectly because we're going to be die cutting this. So just kind of chop it out of the backing piece. Then what you'll need to do is have some glue on hand to glue the two of these together. And the Cosmic Shimmer acrylic glue is really perfect for this. So I have a bit of this already onto a piece of plastic. Normally I would put it onto my craft mat, but this is a little bit easier for cleaning up. And I'm going to take a brush. And this is a little bit wet, so I'm adding some water into this glue just to make it a little bit more fluid. And I'm going to simply paint this onto my background piece. You can also paint it onto the rice paper, but sometimes that gets a little bit tricky in handling that gluey, wet rice paper piece. Okay, so I got enough on here, and then what I'll do is simply take this and place it onto my cardstock and just gently smooth this out. Now I do want to make sure that this is glued thoroughly on here, so I'm going to take this brush again and just kind of go around the outside edges to make sure that the edges are glued in place too. Now, unlike decoupage or traditional decoupage, you don't need to put glue over the top of this. So this is good enough. Put my brush back into some water. Move my gluey piece out of the way here. And then all I need to do is let this dry. I do need to let it dry thoroughly before I do any die cutting. Otherwise, I can tear things and kind of get my dies jammed up. So what I've done here is use the Wreath for All Seasons die from Hot Off the Press. Here's my poor packaging. Here's the die that I'm working with. So in this set, you get a wreath plus lots of seasonal elements that go together. Now this circle is fantastic because it will die cut two pieces. So let me show you these. You'll have the wreath, of course, which is this piece here, but then you also get the innie, which is going to be a nice solid circle that will fit right in here. It's a little bit of an uneven circle, which I really like. So once this is dry, you'll simply take your die, position it on here, secure it down with some low tack tape, and run it through your die cutting machine. And then you'll have this perfectly die cut piece here. Now for my card project, and let me bring this back in again, we can take another look. And you can see that I've actually got two pieces on here. So I've die cut my rice paper piece here and used that for the inside. And then I used the wreath itself and die cut that from a brown pattern paper. So I've die cut the wreath two times, once from rice paper and once from brown pattern paper. And then I'm going to have these two elements that will go together really perfectly. Now I've got my wreath just simply glued straight down onto my background piece, and then the rice paper is popped up with a little bit of foam tape for some extra dimension. Now I added some small Christmas greetings dazzles on here, and of course I've got some die cuts also popped up with foam tape. And I've also got on the inside another strip of that pattern paper. I'm going to use every bit of it that I have. Plus I have a rub on with this beautiful white horse in a scalloped nested square die cut. So super easy to do and just creating a really pretty and festive look. So this is our final project for today. A big thank you to our friends at Stamperia for this absolutely stunning collection that was so much fun to work with. And a big thank you to you for joining me today. We're so glad that you're here, and we're really happy that you're a part of our Paper Wishes family. Do feel free to leave a comment. We love to hear what you think. Each item can be purchased separately, and you can see them below. However, we've also bundled them into a creative money saver just for you. Be sure to see the money saver on the right side of your screen at paperwishes.com. And if you're watching us on YouTube, just have a look in the description box below this video. You'll find a link that will take you to our Paper Wishes webisodes page, and you can see everything I just mentioned. If you enjoyed our video today, we really appreciate a thumbs up. It helps people to find our channel. And don't forget to subscribe. We create 3 to 5 new videos each week, so there's always something fun to inspire your creative spirit.